Eric, you're 7 stars, right?
I am, yep.
Okay. I just want to make sure I don't, mess anything up here.
Does that count as credentials? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm gold.
Okay.
That counts as credentials. Gold status.
I will get you past gold status in one trip.
Hello, it is Wednesday, August 31st, and this is episode 23 of Due for a Win, the Atlantic City and Casino Biz podcast. My name is Craig Stone with Kyle Askin.
Howdy.
And we have a special guest tonight, master harvester of comps and a recreational gambler, Eric Rosenthal. We brought him on because this is something that we are admittedly not experts on, but get asked about fairly regularly. We are not high rollers or anywhere close. We have not done the comp harvesting thing. I play a little bit of My Vegas, but I don't think that counts. So we figured what better way to answer all these questions than to bring in someone who actually knows something about it. So welcome, Eric, to the podcast, our first ever podcast guest on Due for a Win.
Hey, guys. Hello and howdy. Honored to be here.
Thanks for being on.
How you doing tonight?
Wonderful. How about yourself?
Good.
Very good.
Good.
So, I think for us, this does make a lot of sense because it's something that we've talked a little bit about on the podcast, and it's something that I know that some of the things we've said have been corrected by people like Eric in our Facebook group. So it's something that I feel like if this is something that people want to learn more about, we may as well actually give them good information. So that's why we brought Eric on. So do you want to talk a little bit about yourself, Eric, and sort of how you got started in gambling or in comp harvesting, as you call it?
Okay, sure. So a lot of things in life have to do with timing. And I had come across the Gambling with an Edge podcast right around the time that Revel was going through their meltdown. And having loved Revel, and I loved being there, and I was a relatively small player. I would get some offers from them, but nothing special, but that was always where I wanted to go. And they had put out a promotion. I got a postcard in the mail that said, gamblers wanted, you can't lose, and they were willing to rebate up to $100,000 in losses. I didn't play anywhere near at that level, but it was intriguing. I went around to a couple of my friends who are also recreational gamblers, and I said, well, this seems like something we need to take a look at. Professionally, I'm in insurance, and pooling risk is a big part of what we do. And I came up with this plan that we would pool our money, pool our resources, and we would really make a go at it. And I would say that we played at a much higher level than any of us had imagined we would. And prior to doing that, we got all the details in writing. We knew the I's were dotted, the T's were crossed, and, whatever loopholes that they would have. And we went down to Revel, and we lost a lot of money. We lost way more money than we thought possible. We didn't really understand the math, but you can't lose, right?
That's what they said.
So that's what they said.
That is what they said.
That's what they said. So we understood that the losses were only on slots. We were blackjack and craps players, but for the promotion we would go along with it, and we knew that losses would be rebated in the form of free play. And we figured, all right, if we get 2 goes around, how bad could it really be? And as it turned out, it sparked a hobby, a passion, way, way more than I ever imagined it would be. We put up some really big numbers under one card. And it appeared to the casino that I was somebody that they wanted to have back down. So I don't remember exactly what the dates were, but I think it ran through, let's say, July, the end of July, and then they would start the rebate in September. So we went down the very last day of the promotion. So either we were going to win, around break even, or if we were going to lose, let's do it all at once and, play the game. Well, shortly after that day, the host started calling me. Before the lost rebate ever kicked in, I started getting promotional mailers from Revel. They were offering me $1,000 in free play to come down in addition to the lost rebate, in addition to whatever the host was offering me. And, I was sitting in this suite overlooking the water, this unbelievable suite. I've still never been in a better room. And it was because the casino thought that I had gambled way more than I had. And the offers that were coming were based upon my play, and they didn't even factor in that it was all on a promotion. So it kind of dawned on me that the host, the regular marketing department that handles the mailers, things of that nature, they're not necessarily on the same page, and or they don't have the same agenda. While they, both want to bring us in and, get us to lose money, they answer to different people, or they operate differently, and they didn't know. So by the time that lost rebate started, I would show up and get a large number in lost rebate. I would get a large number in free play based upon whatever offer they were giving. I'd get a beautiful room. Everything was comped. I'd bring my family down, my friends down. We didn't pay for anything. This was all off of this one event of pooled money that, I drew the lucky straw that it went in my name as opposed to somebody else's. And it dawned on me at that point that, I think I'm onto something here, and I need to do a little bit of research. So we went through, and I would say between the free play and the offers, we probably netted collectively as a group, and there were 5 of us that chipped in, $15,000. Not that there were any tremendously huge wins in there. We had a couple of hand pays, but nothing to write home about. But all of the additional offers that they gave us just added up to so much more than we put into play. And a couple of things came out of this. We figured out that working as a team really, really helps. We figured out that it's much better for one person to have a tremendously high ADT, average daily theoretical. One person who looks like a much larger loser is a lot better than 5 people who look like, they had an average stay. And the offers continued to come in. And then when Revel closed, everybody was matching Revel's offers, Revel's tier, Revel's program. It was a tough time for Atlantic City then. And everybody that was sticking around was hungry for players. And the offers just kept coming. And one was better than the next. And, a couple of us, we kind of rolled up our sleeves. We're casino nerds. That's kind of what we are. And we figured out, probably 4 or 5 things that you can do, one can do, anybody can do, where you can extract substantially more out of a casino for the same amount of play that you want. You just need to be a little bit smarter about it. And there's nothing that we're doing that is illegal, immoral, unless you think gambling's immoral, but, nothing that shouldn't be done. And there are people who came before us that did a fair amount of research. We started reading and, we'd compare notes. And a big key to this is, you get a group of like-minded people who are after the same result, and they have a little bit of passion, and they're willing to do the homework. And we help each other, and we make sure that everybody's kind of taken care of, and we take turns who's going to be the big player this trip. And it winds up being way, way more in return as far as comps are concerned. Whether it's a you can't lose promotion, we're probably never going to see anything like that again. But these casinos run promotions all the time, and you just need to evaluate the deal. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, so I just wanted to ask you about the You Can't Lose promotion, because this actually made a lot of news when it happened, certainly well before we started the podcast. But, Revel actually got sued over that because the deal with You Can't Lose was it was advertised very heavily as you'd get 100% of your loss back. I think it was throughout the month of July or some segment of July that included, I think, July 4th weekend. So a pretty big time to be down in AC. And the way that they paid it out was that it was there was some delay, I think, right, like a month or 2 months until September, and then you got 5% of your loss back in free play every week for 20 straight weeks.
Correct.
So did you know that going in? Did that factor into how you gamed it? Or was the sort of disconnect that you talked about where, well, the offers started coming in anyway, and then this is just sort of hedging that? Did that all factor into your calculations?
Yeah, so one of the members of my group is a lawyer, and I had him speak with the host and get the details and, kind of get everything in writing that we needed. We were aware of that ahead of time. At least three of us, we are within an hour of Atlantic City, at least from work. And the way that it ran was I think they had 2 weeks where there was a discrepancy, but generally the week ran Wednesday to Tuesday. So if the week ran Wednesday to Tuesday, if we went down Tuesday night after work, we could take care of the current week on Tuesday, stay over, and in the morning, Wednesday morning, we would get the next week, and then it took 20 trips down to 10.
Wow.
And it didn't really matter. 6 a.m. is the beginning of the gaming day, so I don't think anybody missed a day of work. I mean, we just they make the rules and we adhere to their rules, and you just need to be able to find out what they are before you put a fair amount of money at risk. I think they had 2 weeks where we had to do it differently, so it may not have been just 10 trips, but conceptually, I mean, even when it came down to the dates when the money was available, I mean, we knew when we had to be there, how we had to be there. It was a large enough loss that we had to check with the host every time we came in so they could load the money on the card. There was a blueprint. We understood what we were getting into. And thank goodness it worked out, but, as a whole, we were kind of able to look at, all right, within 2 standard deviations, this is how much we can expect to lose. And, it was good. It was good. It could have been better, but, once we figured out that these big blips on the radar get noticed, and they don't just get noticed by Revel, they get noticed by any independent host who's associated with Revel and has the ability to look at that, it was a game changer.
So, well, I know for one thing you're speaking Kyle's language right now with the 2 standard deviations, because when he did Diamond in a day, which is very much an easier calculation than what you're talking about. He had a whole spreadsheet that he showed me about.
I had a spreadsheet, and I had figured out what within this is like if I lose, if I'm like what the 5% expectation for me is. So like the most I could like really theoretically lose if I
did the exact same. Yep.
Right.
So you mentioned that you were sort of the beneficiary with the card. Did your friends feel like they got the short end of the stick, or how did you sort of work that out among your friends? I mean, we talked about the group gamble, I think, a couple episodes ago, but in this situation, there's so much value to being the guy whose card is in the machine. How did you work that out?
So the money was split 5 ways. So there was no monetary gain on my end. However, obviously the comps and the status went in my name. And once we figured out what to do, we just share and we take turns. So we do the same thing while there isn't a You Can't Lose promotion going on. There are promotions regularly that I will not call them an advantage play. You have a negative expected value minus the comps, but we go away for, the weekend we have a wonderful time, and next time player B is the one who gets the action in their name. And we do this through a couple of different networks. So I happen to be a Total Rewards guy. I have one friend who's an M-Life fan, and when we do that at an M-Life property, I'm assuming when Borgata changes over, that's going to become a fairly regular play. There are offers and promotions that make it worthwhile, and not at the same level that we did with the You Can't Lose. But, if you have a good relationship with a host, you can find out what type of action is needed to get the type of comps that you want. You just need to be direct.
So you mentioned, I don't know if we're totally jumping out of order here for you, but you mentioned hosts that have access to the Revel information. And for me and Kyle, I think, who are not big gamblers and who have never dealt with a host, honestly. So, really that's why if you needed proof that we need to bring someone in to talk about comps, there it is. I always assume sort of there's a host at Caesars, there's a host at Bally's, there's a host at Borgata, there's a host at Trump Taj Mahal. I mean, there are many hosts at all these places, but you mentioned independent hosts who have access to, say, like Revel's
Sure.
network or Total Rewards. What is that, and sort of how do you take advantage of that?
Okay, so hosts come in a couple of different flavors, we'll call them. So an independent host sometimes is a junket rep. They run trips. They're paid by the casino to bring players in. When they bring you in, you become coded to them at that particular casino. And they usually have a pretty wide variety of networks that they have access to, which means my play at Caesars could be evaluated by an independent host who could then extend a comp to me either at Mohegan Sun or at Golden Nugget. I don't know any that do both Total Rewards and M-Life. They may exist. Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas. There's a lot of different options. So some hosts are employees of the company. There are some hosts that are actually on site. In rare occasions do I use an on-site host. I prefer national casino marketing within the Total Rewards network. The gentleman that I use is not in any one hotel, but he can cover me throughout the nation with Total Rewards. I also use two different independent hosts that are able to track my play in a couple of different places and then extend offers not only nationally but internationally. So if they have casinos in their book that they rep, they can make offers to me to get me either on their trip. Usually that'll include airfare, a food comp, some free play, and it brings you to many, many places that, at least for me, I wouldn't go otherwise. I mean, it may be a really cool trip, but if I have Atlantic City in my backyard or, Vegas, 5-hour flight, that's a lot better than, going tropical. But the Bahamas, Bimini, there's a number of places that you can get comped to just based upon your local play, and all it has to do with is having that independent host verify your play. They basically operate as your agent or your broker, I guess, so to speak, with that property, and they kind of negotiate for you, and they say this is who we have, this is what their play is, this is what you can expect. And, you don't ever have to step foot in a place, assuming you've built a track record with one of these hosts to, within reason, get whatever you want.
So are these people kind of like almost scouts who are going out and finding players who they have for casinos that they have deals with all over the place, and that's why the casino feels like it's worth it to them to contract with them rather than just using their own hosts?
Well, the casino will use both. I don't know of any casinos that only use independent, but a lot of them will have their own in-house people as well as contract with an independent host. So from I guess I really can't speak for the casino, but I assume their perspective is they're bringing in players that would otherwise not be there, and there is a theoretical dollar amount that player is worth. So what are they willing to give to bring that player in? So one piece goes to the host and one piece goes to the player in comps, and they expect that your loss will be what they want it to be. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But for the recreational gambler who likes to go different places and do different things, to me it's kind of funny when I hear you guys talk about hotel rates. Like I'm shocked that people pay for hotel rooms. When I go away to a non-casino resort and there's a bill for the hotel room, I got to admit it's a little bit of a shell shock, because through Total Rewards, they actually guarantee me free rooms wherever I go. So we find ways to make our travel both business and family travel even. If we can make it work through a Total Rewards property, well, why would I pay for a Sheraton if I could stay at Harrah's for free?
And that's just a matter of finding if you end up going someplace that happens to be close to a Harrah's or a Total Rewards property, they'll take care of the hotel effectively.
Yeah, if you're 7 stars, that's actually one of the perks of the program. So they guarantee you in Atlantic City and in Vegas, if you give them 2 days notice, you have a room guaranteed and it's comped. I've never not been given a comped room as a 7 stars player throughout the Total Rewards network. And we've gone a lot of places. It's worked out that a lot of the places that I go for business even, there is a TR property not far from there. I just came from Kansas City, and we were at Harrah's North Kansas City. We didn't choose Kansas City. That was where the business need was. But they have so many properties, it just kind of works.
So back when you were talking about how when you were first getting into it, you mentioned that you and your friends started reading some stuff about it. Are there any good resources that people can find on comps?
Absolutely. So the book that opened my eyes is a book called Comp City, written by Max Rubin. Max Rubin is now in Verona in Southern California. He's on the other side of things now, but he was probably the first most prolific comp harvester. Now, his book is largely about blackjack, and some of the things that he tells you to do are probably the material's a little bit dated, and not everything he says is going to fly today. But conceptually, what he talks about in that book is giving the casino less play out of your pocket than they think you're giving them, and giving them enough so that the rewards are worth more than your theoretical loss. For those that are also in or willing to be with the Total Rewards property, Caesars Entertainment, Daryl McEwen has the 7 Stars Insider, which is a great resource. He's got a monthly newsletter. He's got all sorts of information that comes out. It's largely Total Rewards based, but there's tremendous value to be had. It doesn't necessarily teach you comp harvesting, but it does teach you how to maximize what to get out of each property. Another good resource, I'm going to plug a member from the group. Michael Traeger's website is TravelZork, and that's where that group gamble conversation came from. Phenomenal resource. A lot of people who are in this comp game are kind of afraid to give a lot of the details, and they don't want to spoon feed people, because if too many people do it, it'll ruin it for the rest of us. I think Michael and his people do the best job I've seen of leading you down the path without spoon feeding you, and letting you either figure it out or at least have a conversation piece where you could talk to somebody who might kind of help you through it. I think if you do that, I like the Gambling with an Edge podcast. They don't go into specifics, but you can glean information and then from there figure out, how is this applicable? Bob Dancer, who is both on the You Can Bet on That, and he also writes for Travel Zork. He will talk all the time about positive EV plays being based upon, mailers plus comps plus, your expected value in the game. And once you kind of let that marinate on your brain a little bit, you look at things differently. And that's where I would start, at least.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned all those. Like we certainly listen to You Can Bet on That and Gambling with an Edge, I think, is Bob Dancer's podcast, right? So, and one of the funny things is Dr. Mike from You Can Bet on That mentioned something that you mentioned, which is like he was going to a wedding in Indiana, and like they flew him and his family out to southern Indiana, put him up in Harris, southern Indiana, with his family, multiple rooms, I think 3 rooms for like him, his kids, and his in-laws. And that was something that I never really thought about. Like here, because that's really where you get into benefits beyond just gambling, like beyond just bringing you to the casino to get you to sit down at the blackjack table, because then, that's a trip he was going to make anyway. Like he was going to a wedding, and so now he's getting real value out of these comps. There was money that he was going to have to spend.
Well, they'll pay for your airfare too.
Right, and that's,
it's above and it's. I'm sorry, I kind of stepped on you there. Go ahead.
Oh no, that's fine. Well, I mean, you mentioned the airfare, and that's a huge thing, because one of the recent times I went to Vegas, I say recent, but it was probably 5 years ago. My brother had a room at Monte Carlo for a conference, and he's like, "Oh, if you want to come out, I've got a free room." And I very quickly realized, like, the room is not the expense. Like everything, the flights, the food, everything else is the expense. The room is meaningless. Like if that's the reason to go out to Vegas, then I should go out to Vegas every weekend, because the room rates are low. But yeah, I mean, just hearing that value is very interesting. But again, we're kind of new to this and don't really know that much about it. So, as total noobs to this, what should we know just starting out? Like, what is something, if you can tell the listener something that they should really understand, like what are some tips sort of for us? And I know you mentioned sort of the 3-legged stool offline before we talked of casino and comps offers. So can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So each program is going to have their own tier-based offers. Now, in my opinion, I think Total Rewards is by far the best program for it. I'm not an apologist for them. Their properties are largely mediocre. I'd much rather stay at Borgata than Harrah's. However, I understand the Total Rewards program. I'm able to see what the tier benefits are, and they are the most straightforward in what you are able to get for your dollar. And when I say dollar, it's not just gambling dollar. They also provide tier points for spend. So you've got your tier-based credits, right? So the free rooms are based upon your tier. Some offers are based upon your tier. You get a couple of trips a year if you're 7 stars, the Diamond 2 and the annual trip. They all have a value that you have to kind of look at, and it'll offset whatever that expected gambling loss is going to be. You have the second leg is our hosts, and you have to not only be connected with a host, but you need to learn how to, I think Bob Dancer refers to it as caring and feeding for the host. You have to figure out how to become their friend so you can maximize what they can give you. Most of the time they have a boss that they have to answer to. So learning how to best help your host will allow them to best help you. And general offers, the mailers that you get, assuming you're going to take advantage of them, they have a value also. So whether you pick one leg of the stool to work on, or you kind of focus on all three, any one of them is going to get you more than if you just kind of haphazardly go through. Kyle mentioned gambling as being an entertainment for him, and that this sounds more like a job. And there's some truth to that. If you want to get more, you have to do more, and it requires scouting, and it requires time, and it requires building relationships with other people, because you can't spend all your time in a casino. I think for most people the key would be, let's start with slot players. If you're a husband and a wife, or any two people that go down and you're both going to be playing on an electronic machine, play on the same card. Have two people play on one card. Maximize, if you're a quarter player and your friend, partner, spouse, whatever is a quarter player, well, now you're a 50-cent player. And that one person will get a better offer than the two people would separately. The casinos look at each patron, gambler, whatever, as having an overhead amount affiliated with it, right? There's a cost to the free drinks, there's a cost to the air conditioning, there's a cost to blah, 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 blah. If you're one person who gets a free room and 2 free meals, and you're going to share the room anyway, and the two people are going to go get meals, it doesn't matter. There's no need to, I think your story was you would check in at Tropicana and give them 5 seconds of play so they knew you were still alive.
Right.
And they look at it and they say, well, he's really not covering his overhead.
Right. Totally worthless to Tropicana.
Well, I don't know about totally worthless. You have the premier Atlantic City podcast, so there is clearly value there. Don't discount yourself too much. But if I'll just use the two of you. If you guys went down and the idea was for you to play on electronic games, it's easier electronically than it is on tables, but some places will let you operate as one bankroll and pool your action as one person there also. Look bigger than you really are. And if you're one person and you go by yourself, then it's probably not going to help you too much. But most people don't go to casinos by themselves. And they will give you multiple cards. And if you have 5 people playing on one card, that works too. Each program might have their own rules. Each casino might have their own rules. I'm not advocating anybody do anything that is strictly barred by the casino or the program, but if it's something that you're allowed to do, most places, definitely spouses, they don't mind, pool your play for sure.
Right. So that's, a couple things you mentioned. For one thing, me and my wife definitely do both play under my card already, which, she doesn't go to the casinos a whole lot and she doesn't play super high limits when she does, but, like you said, every little bit helps. And about your other comment about me saying that it is like a job in a way, and yeah, I understand it is. And me and Craig actually have a friend who basically gets into all kinds of things like this, like any way there is to just sort of make money by one of his things was buying coins from the mint using his credit cards and getting the rewards and just taking the coins from the bank. Mm-hmm. Right. Just churning through a bunch of stuff, and he does the same thing with some sort of, some of the fake debit cards you can get at the grocery store and stuff. So, and I understand there's definitely value you can get out of that. For me personally, if there's some easy things to do, like you said, maybe pool or play or whatever, to do it, that's fine. I'm just, so pitch me on some easy things to do that makes me feel like going to the casino is a recreational activity and not a work, basically.
Okay, so the easiest one that I would start with, again, it only works if you care about the Total Rewards Network. The Founders Card is a card that you can buy fairly cheap, a lot cheaper than it would cost you to earn Diamond status. And included in that card, one of the benefits is you receive Diamond status with Total Rewards, which gives you access to the Diamond Lounges. Anybody that I know that has the Diamond card through Founders Card got very discounted rooms through in Atlantic City and comped rooms in Vegas. There are offers that are made specifically for Diamond players. And since I'm already giving Travel Zork a plug, I know that you can go through their website and pick it up. There are other ways out there, but Neil said I could talk about him. So you guys have met Neil. He's a fairly active member in the Facebook group. He told me I could share this. So he was a practicing comp harvester, but was not giving them very much play. And he got a call one day, and they said, Neil, we know what you're up to. There's not a whole lot of play going on, but you're asking for things left and right. We're going to cut you off. And he got all up in a puff and in a huff or whatever. And he called me up and he said, they're not going to give it to me. And I told him about the founder's card, and he went and he got the founder's card. I think he paid $300, and I wound up giving him like a year and a half worth of benefit. And aside from waiving resort fees left and right and access to the Diamond Lounge, now he's comped everywhere. And so you really don't have to do an awful lot. I mean, is there an expense? Yes. Are you going to receive $300 worth of value if you go a couple of times a year? Absolutely. So you have to look at the programs. You have to see what's available, what's out there. Another thing that we covered in the Facebook group is to watch your average daily theoretical. So if you happen to be a player, let's assume, and it really doesn't matter the game. I'll use myself as an example. I tend to play the highest limits at blackjack. That's really my game. I have friends that enjoy craps. I enjoy playing with them. I'm not going to play craps at the same level that I play blackjack. You do that same, look at the math and say, all right, well, 2 standard deviations. No, I don't think I want to play that at the level I play blackjack. I'm not going to give them my card. The casinos, no, by that I mean my player's card. I don't want to be rated. And if you're going to play at a much lower level than you're playing now, you need to, or your average play, you need to protect what the casino knows about you. If the casino knows you to be a average $100 better and you're going to make $5 bets, you just don't hand them your card. And when they ask for it, you smile and say, I prefer not to be rated. And they know exactly what that means. And they say, thank you, sir, and go on. You need to protect your image with the casino. Don't take an offer, go there and not play, and then expect that same offer to be there. And
So you mentioned the rating and not giving your card, and one thing that I've heard, certainly Mark on You Can Bet on That, and we've had emailers say the same thing, is they check how they're rated, and obviously that's really easy to do in Total Rewards, but it seems like a lot of people are actually very concerned about how they're rated, and go to the host right after they play and they say, "Oh, can you tell me how I'm rated?" And then they get upset because they're not rated properly or whatever. Is that something that you should be really concerned about? Should I be? I don't have a host, but theoretically, if I had a host, should I be going to the host and checking my rating and making sure I'm getting rated correctly, or is that going to sort of even out in the long run?
All right, so it's way, way easier than that. And yes, you should care, but you shouldn't freak out about it. So 2 things. If you are a table games player, at the end of your session, assuming you've had a halfway decent rapport not only with the dealers but with the pit boss, you simply ask, what did you have me rated at? And for how long? I don't go to the TR desk. I don't go ask my host. None of that. I know before I leave the table. So on the episode of You Can Bet on That, where they were talking about, you check your TR points and you look to see where that is, that gives you a number, and, they have daily tier bonuses, so it matters if you're at 1,000 or 2,500 or 5,000 tier credits for the day. But in general, you just ask the pit boss, what did you have me rated at? Now, here's what I'll tell you. If you're tipping the dealers, and tip the dealers, If the number doesn't make sense, you politely, there's no reason to get up in a huff. You just tell them that you think it's incorrect. They're not watching every hand. And you ask the dealer to vouch for you. Well, if you have me down for a $50 average bet, and I think it really should be a $100 average bet, and I say to the pit, there was some fluctuation. I think maybe that's a little light. Why don't you ask the dealer? And he will ask the dealer who you have been tipping regularly. If they're a halfway decent person, they will say, yeah, it really was closer to 100. And they will go back into the computer and update the average. That right there will take care of the average bet, the average amount of play, meaning time-wise. You're going to know what that is. You can ask them also how long you've been checked in for. And that will convert to reward credits, tier credits, points if you're not in the total reward system. And a table game usually takes maybe an hour or so to filter through the system. What I would say is, if you are still in the casino and you find out that you're at 999 points and that's only going to bonus 125 tier credits, and you throw $5 into a slot machine, it's going to put you to 1,000, and then they'll bonus 1,000 tier credits. It's well worth your $5 no matter what happens, right? And we might be able to extrapolate that to $50, $100, whatever the math makes sense for you in what your goals are. What are you trying to extract from the system? What are you trying to earn? And when you know where your base is, I would say don't leave the casino without knowing if you're really close to one of those bonuses. And at that point, it might make sense. Everybody says don't play for comps, don't play for comps. I agree with that, but whatever happened in the past is already in the past. But if I need to put another $50 in the machine to earn, let's go up a level. If I go to 2,500 tier credits for the day, they bonus me 5,000. Well, that might be worth an extra $50 or $100 to me. And each person will have their own valuation on what a tier credit is worth. And it works very much like the people that you talked about who are really into churning credit card, manufacturing spend, any of those games where they're earning free hotel stays and airfares. It's the same thing. You just want to maximize value for your gambling dollar, and obviously only do it if you're enjoying yourself. The comp all by itself isn't worth it.
So I've got a question for you. I don't remember if it was actually at the beginning of the episode or before we came on, but you were talking big. You could get Craig to platinum after his next trip. So what would you do to make that happen, other than sort of telling him to just buy the Founders card and go to Diamond?
Well, all right. So the first step would be Founders card, but I mean, in reality, I don't know if you always show up. The last time, when I mentioned Atlantic City, what were there, 5 of you, I think?
Right.
4, I think, with the
four?
Time. Yeah.
5. No, it was 5. It was 5.
All right.
It was Dave Taylor and Andy and us.
Right. So, I mean, we would make Craig the player of the day, and everybody would play on Craig's card. And, if you needed help from somebody who might help push it over the edge, then, maybe you'd have 6 in your group. And you just push through, you get to your diamond in a day, just like you had gotten yours on the video poker. A lot of little bricks make a big wall. It doesn't, to get to base diamond doesn't take an awful lot of effort. It just requires focus.
Right. Well, I mean, so for me, it seems like in the last 3 years, they've kind of closed a lot of the, I'll say, the cheapest ways to get to diamond in a day, because I mean, for me, and this is what I think about it, and you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but it's much easier to do for a lot of reasons at a slot machine or at a video poker machine than at a table. And, the good, quote unquote, video poker machines have been going away, and the ones that haven't are now rated differently in the system than sort of the bad video poker machines.
So it's a great question, and you're right. It's a little bit more difficult today than it was a couple of years ago. This is where it goes back to having friends that are in the know that are willing to share. I received a message not too long ago that there's a full pay video poker machine that is awarding tier credits incorrectly, and it's actually, for every $6 in, it's rewarding one tier credit. One tier credit. So, there's a lot of ways to do it. And sometimes you have to look beyond Atlantic City. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on this show, but
that's fine.
Okay, there are other areas, Harrah's Philadelphia, which is in Chester, which is, I don't know, maybe an hour from Atlantic City. They have some options. There are playable games in Atlantic City. What I would say is it's maybe not as easy as it used to be. And yes, they do award more tier credits for slot play because the house edge is higher. There's a direct proportion to tier credit earning and house edge, a direct relationship. Right. But you also may want to look at, and this is going to sound absolutely crazy, but your spending, your non-resort spending can be run through the Total Rewards Network and get you there as well. Mm-hmm. And without getting into real specifics, there are many opportunities to be had where people could earn Diamond and even 7 stars and probably never even gamble $1.
Okay. Cool. I mean, Total Rewards sends out plenty of offers to, sign up for this service or that and get, well, usually it's reward credits, not necessarily tier credits, but I definitely see a lot of that.
Correct. We can talk offline. I'll
sure.
You. Yep.
So, I mean, without getting into too much of that detail, I know one thing that I've talked about with our friend Andy, who's a big credit point churner, is the Total Rewards credit card, and sort of the idea, well, it gives you platinum automatically, which Kyle and I have talked about many times. Platinum means nothing. It gets you it's
basically worthless.
15% in the gift shop, and that's basically it. But is there value to the Total Rewards credit card? Is that something that I should just be ignoring entirely, or is there any reason for me to do that as sort of a low roller, just to make me feel good to have a card higher than gold?
Okay, so the Total Rewards credit card is probably the greatest asset I have in generating comps. It is tremendously valuable, but it really requires thinking outside of the box. So if we were to think about your friend who buys, the Mint used to let you ship coins and then deposit at the bank, and they were earning points that way. Every dollar that you spend on the credit card is worth a reward credit. Now, if a reward credit is worth more than a penny to you, that's greater than a 1% return on your money, those reward credits can be used for a lot of things. And
right.
So I'm kind of dancing on a thin line here, but here's what I would tell you. If you're going all in and you think that you're going to spend time, energy, effort, and money into comp harvesting, I think you need the credit card. If you're going to go a couple of times a year and it really, you don't want a part-time job, you want it to be just fun when you're there, then it's probably not going to offer you a whole lot.
Okay.
But the same games that can I call them travel hacking people? The miles and points people could do something very similar with a Total Rewards credit card. Total Rewards reward credits can be redeemed for free play based upon your level, your tier status, at a somewhat reasonable rate. And outside of Atlantic City and a lot of places, that free play can be used to earn tier credits. So I'll give you for example, without going into too much detail. let's assume somebody had a large spend that they were going to put on their card or business expenses or whatever. And then they were going to redeem those reward credits for free play. In Vegas, it still works. Caesar's Palace allows you to convert up to $1,000 a day in free play off of your reward credits. All of that free play counts as dollar in, coin in. You could cycle through that coin in at a high enough level and earn a very large tier bonus. So somebody who wanted to do diamonds in a day and had the ability to spend on that credit card legitimately for their own purposes and then take a trip to Vegas and they were going to be there for 5 days, they could redeem $1,000 a day and then wait until the fifth day when they have $5,000 that they can put through the machine that didn't cost them $1 and cycle through that $5,000. You're probably looking at 25,000 coin in. That would be your diamond in a day, theoretically. Not that I know that works, but
wow.
We'll assume it works, right?
So, I mean, for us, and I think for certainly a segment of our listeners who are sort of low rollers and maybe coming into this thinking, this is just all above me at my level of play, it's not really going to make a difference. Is there anything that we should keep in mind if we're the sort of red chip players, as Vegas Fanboy calls us, beyond just team play and all that stuff, which you've mentioned and certainly would be very helpful. Is there anything else we should be trying to keep in mind?
You're hitting all of my favorite podcasts here. So besides you guys, we've got Adam and we've got Mark and Dr. Mike. You have to look at the program and how it rewards your play. So total rewards works for me. You may find if you're a red chip player, you may get the best value at resorts. You may get the best, the Taj was phenomenal. I know you guys kind of, poo-poo the Taj a little bit, but they were phenomenal for low rollers in the offers that they give. I don't think it's any one particular action as much as it is look at what's being offered relative to the action that you're giving and find the program that most aligns with what you want to get out of it. They all operate differently, and they all have, let's call them subtleties, in which one program might be more advantageous for a slots player as opposed to a table player. If free rooms are more important to you, then obviously the larger networks with more inventory are probably going to be better for you. Some people care about tickets and, tickets to shows, things like that. Some places are much more willing to give out entertainment comps than others. You got to do a little bit of homework and kind of figure out what it is that you're looking for and who's offering it at their lower levels. And that would be my best bit of advice.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the investigation part, I think, is a big part of it, and I think a lot of people who get into it want to just dive right in and start getting their comps. I played for a day, I've showed you that I bet a X amount per hand, just give me what's coming to me, right? And it seems like it's not that easy. We've been going, Kyle's certainly been going longer than I have, but, we've been going together for 6 or 7 years now, and I see, like you've mentioned, very different comps. Like Total Rewards is much more likely to give me a room. I mean, Resorts is probably the most likely to give me a room, just because of they probably sell less rooms. But like Tropicana is far, far more likely to give me a show ticket. Like I get comp show tickets from Tropicana frequently, offers, even though I rarely gamble there. Borgata gives me much more match play than I get anywhere else. So really, it's interesting to see these differences and sort of what I value. And sort of in my mind, it's kind of shocking that Borgata feels like they're giving me the most value just because I value the free play a lot based on what my play is, although really Kyle and I have talked about what we really value is the rooms, and that's why we end up at Total Rewards, or, the one time we've ended up at resorts pretty often. So, it's kind of like rooms, number one, free play, at least to me, number two, and then, all the other stuff, food and beverage, whatever. Like, that's nice, but that's not really what I'm going for.
Right, and once you make that evaluation for yourself, when I look at what I receive in the form of comps relative to my dollar of action, I'm going to probably have a different valuation on those comps than you. So what might be a home run for me, you or any of the listeners might think to themselves, well, that's not really for me. Well, then there's no reason for them to seek that out as a goal, right? My wife loves the Seven Stars Lounge. Well, if I said to her, you know what, we're not going to play anymore at Total Rewards, we're going to go elsewhere, I would hear about how much she loves the Seven Stars Lounge and she wants to stay there, so we would stay there. But, it's to maximize any of this requires a little bit of homework, a little bit of conversation. I think your Facebook group has been a phenomenal resource for anybody who's willing to participate. I won't speak for anybody else, but I frequently, am on that page. And if anybody had direct questions about their play and what they wanted, I would volunteer to help them. You got to do a little bit of homework on your own, but for the most part, you learn from people who have done it before you. And, I'll throw that out there. I'm happy to help.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, I mean, the Facebook group, I know we sort of pimp the Facebook group nonstop, but the big thing to me about the Facebook group is, Kyle and I are not experts on every property or probably experts on any property in Atlantic City. We just like the town and follow the news. And so when you've got a big group, and it's now, 90 some odd people, which you can debate about whether that's big or not, but certainly in my mind, it's bigger than Kyle and I, it gets you, there's going to be 10 people who love Taj, and we saw that when the news came out that Taj closed. There's going to be a bunch of people who are really into Total Rewards and following that, or people who are really into what comps you can get at Borgata, and they only go to Borgata, or they only go to Harrah's. So there are people who sort of know the ins and outs of what you can expect to get, or where the best place to go is for dinner and all that stuff. So that's been the coolest thing for me, and really what the sort of value added is, to use a dorky MBA term, since Kyle and I both have MBAs, from the Facebook group, is really just sort of that crowdsourcing of content that goes way beyond what Kyle and I could possibly offer on our own. Is there anything we're missing? I know we've talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about what low rollers can have in mind. What about one other thing I was wondering is, I've been going for a long time. I've been to all the casinos. I have a play history at every casino, and it's pretty piss poor at every casino. Do I just need to sort of have patience to increase my daily theoretical and trip theoretical, or is there anything I can do to just boost it quickly? I mean, if I go and I do the team thing, are they going to say, oh my goodness, this guy's a big player now, or are they going to say, oh, this guy, we know this guy, this is bullshit, he's not actually betting $5 a spin at slots or $100 a hand at blackjack or anything like that?
So they track your play in rolling time frames. The offers that you're receiving now are based upon the play that you had in the past. I don't know for a fact if they're all on a rolling 6-month or rolling 12-month, but your average update's based upon a much more recent time frame. So the fact that you were a low roller 2 years ago, but now you're showing more play, they're not looking back 5 years at your play. At least I don't believe they are. In my experience, if you show a spike in your play, and one time probably isn't going to move the needle that much, but a couple of times will, you're going to see a difference in offers. You're going to see a difference in what's made available to you. And I think for the most part, knowing that, you guys aren't there every month, you're going to have probably 2 plays in that, let's say, in that 6-month time frame where they're looking at your play. You're building a new history. You're building a relationship. It isn't like, all right, I played today and I demand my comps today. It's very much it's a longer end game. And if you want the comps to come in the future, you start now, and you protect what your image is to the casino. Don't come in and gamble for $1, or if you're going to come in and gamble for $1, then don't use your card. Picking up 3 cents in comps that day isn't going to help you in the long run. It's going to hurt. And I would say if you went down and you played at a higher level by whatever means, you decided to use, probably by the beginning of next year, I think you would see substantially better offers.
Cool. I mean, I think that this has been really great. I mean, I know at least for me, it's been interesting, and it's given me some stuff to think about, and I hope the listeners agree. I think, it's been a lot, but it's been good. So as you mentioned, Eric, you are on the Facebook group, so if people have more questions, they can reach out to you there. And we were talking about it a little bit before we got on the air, but Craig and I think it sounds like we're probably a go for the first weekend in November, right, Craig?
Yeah, I think we're, pencil it in, November 4th, 5th weekend. I've been checking my TR rates. They haven't been great, but we'll figure something out for that weekend. So it sounds like that there's at least a couple of people who we met up with last time, including maybe Eric, who the 4th and the 5th may work for as well. So I think that we're moving at least closer to solidifying that date and saying that is going to be the next date. We're in Atlantic City, and we'd love to meet up with people for a beer or whatever and play some craps or whatever people want to play. And if anybody needs some team gambling, that's a ready-made team, right?
Yeah.
That could be a 1-year anniversary of sorts. I think our first episode was November, late November, but we'll call it close enough. A 1-year anniversary of the podcast, so that's kind of cool. And also sort of a post-VIMP event. Eric, are you going to VIMP this year?
I will be there.
So yeah, that's the big hot ticket in Vegas. Apparently, I know they sold out really quickly of their booster program.
If I could give a brief shout out to my wife, VIMP runs right along with my 10-year anniversary, and my wife knew that I really wanted to go, so she is coming with me to VIMP so we can celebrate our anniversary in Vegas.
Nice,
Kyle.
Yeah.
You hear that?
Yeah, I know. See, I know. So October 15th is obviously during VIMP weekend, but it's also my son's first birthday. So I'm like, Craig keeps like, yeah, you should go. I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen this year.
Just bring him. You've heard. Now that's the protocol. You just bring Isaac. It's totally fine.
I suspect he would have less fun in Vegas than Eric's wife would, but
yeah, I expect you would have less fun in Vegas with a 1-year-old.
With a 1-year-old, yes.
But yeah, I mean, I think this has been great, very, very informative. Certainly, again, stuff that we are not experts on at all. So it's great to have you on, Eric.
I know there was a couple things that you said you wanted to talk about that we just didn't have time. So I think we'll have to have you on again and a little bit later in the year if you're amenable to that.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so thank you to Eric, our expert comp harvester. Find him in our.
One of our very early listeners as well. He reached out to us pretty early on, sort of before the Facebook group, before any of that. So thank you very much for listening to as well, Eric.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you've had to stick through. You stuck through all of the Atlantic City news that we've talked about that nobody probably cares about.
I cared about it. I'm one of the ones that enjoyed it, but you gotta. It's a balance, right?
Right.
It's what we're shooting for. So you can find Eric and all sorts of other fun Atlantic City fans in the Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/due-for-a-win. The website is dueforawin.com. That's where you can find our posts, our guest posts, the blogs that we have not been posting over the last several months that we should get back.
Several years.
The podcast is on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. You can find the Twitter at DueForAWin, and you can send any questions to dueforawin@gmail.com. So thanks again to Eric for being here. This was totally awesome. We will talk to you again in a couple of weeks, and we hope you all have very good luck if you are headed to Atlantic City and doing your comp harvesting thing and trying to get your diamond status and all of that stuff.
Yep, we'll talk to you all in a couple of weeks, and hopefully see you guys the first weekend of November. Didn't you say that Neil also is reaching out to you because he really wants to go to Atlantic City with us again?
He was. He said November 4th, 5th. He said, let's do it.
Yeah, he's in.
He sent me the dates. He was like, clear your calendar, we're going.